Basketball has its sixth man, the unsung hero who comes off the bench to help his team to victory. Football has its 12th man, an unseen but powerful energy that urges the home team forward. Now, Christianity has its 13th apostle, a faithful witness to the love, mercy, and truth of Jesus Christ. How about you? Will you be the 13th apostle?
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the 13th Apostle, where we explore the good, the beautiful, and the true of the Catholic faith and the Catholic Church. And this is Tom Caffrey with my distant, not cousin, but distant co-host, Dan Duddy. Say hello, Dan Duddy.
Hello, Dan Duddy.
See, you're on a roll. Ladies and gentlemen, when I say on a roll, now Dan would quickly say, "Well, no, I'm not on a roll. I'm on a bun," just to keep in track with what he's been saying over the past 2 minutes. But prior to going on the air, I asked him. We were talking about his beautiful wallet, and I said, "Over the years, since you've had that for 5 years, has more money gone out of it? You know, let's say to children and whatnot, than has gone into it?" And he, rightly so, said, "What, Dan?"
It's an equal amount. How could it not be?
See, that's brilliant. That is logic. That is pure, raw logic. So
who wouldn't answer it that way? That's what I want to know.
We could take this microphone and go out on your street, and we could ask people that question, and I'll bet we would get different answers than you gave.
You know, I think that's because they think past the logic, and they become overly philosophical, and they come up with some, I get what their answers could have been, like me with 8 kids. Oh, my goodness, far more goes out than ever goes in, which makes no sense, because then it would be empty, right? Yeah, so there you go. But that's me. I'm Danny Duddy, the wit man.
Yeah.
Man with all the wits.
You got the wits, that's right.
My wits are about me. How you doing, all right?
I'm doing all right. This is, hopefully we're winding down with these remote episodes.
Next week we're coming together.
Yeah, that'd be great. We're going to work on getting some interviews beyond the usual where I'm interviewing you on doing most episodes. So we'll get... When I say we'll get fresh, you can't say fresh faces because nobody can see. Fresh voices. That's not to suggest that your voice is stale. I want to make that perfectly clear to you and to our worldwide audience.
You could not make that judgment for our audience. That's up to them to decide they're hearing the same voice. So there would definitely be an opinion on your part.
Well, you're right. I can't speak for them. But, if I say something on behalf of them, it would be up to them to contact us and disagree, protest, or agree wholeheartedly. So, but I'm sure it wouldn't be the latter. So, because we want to be righteous. So
hungry for hunger and thirst for righteousness tonight.
So that's our this is the Beatitude. We're in that Beatitude series, so this is it. And it's interesting. Once again, we can read something very quickly, hear something very quickly, especially hearing, because we're visually oriented, so we learn better with sight. Mm-hmm. So it's even harder if we're at Mass or some liturgy and we hear, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." Stop. Let's everybody stop with those 2 words. Hunger. It's one thing to be hungry. Let's make our next meal. But to have that deep and profound hunger, I don't know what that's like from a physical standpoint. Mm-hmm. I've certainly been hungry many times, but never to this point of saying hunger. Mm-hmm. But spiritually, maybe emotionally, You know, yeah, I could definitely use hunger and thirst. And yet we should stop and pay attention to those two words. They are powerful human drives. You know, you get hungry, you steal for food. I mean, we talked about Jean Valjean and Les Miserables. You know, what he did to save that starving woman. And there's plenty of stories like that. And unfortunately, very sadly, there's plenty of experiences like that. How many people right now are dying of hunger and thirst around the world? Yeah. How many in those refugee camps? So I just want us, you, Dan Duddy, and me, Tom Caffrey, and our audience to stop. We should try to make it a habit, something that we intellectually we know is profound, is deep, but we say it so quickly. And to stop, slow down, and to say, what does it mean to have deep hunger and thirst?
Yeah, most of us don't know. Thankfully, that we don't know it. But on the other hand, if we really did know it, then we could really understand what our Lord is saying here on the Sermon on the Mount. And to have a burning desire for something requires a why. You know, why would you have that burning desire? Hunger and thirst, of course, there is a why, because that's a physical thing. You know, that's a need. That's a bodily need. But to have it for righteousness is something that you're bringing up at this point. How could we ever apply true thirst and hunger to a burning desire for righteousness? And St. Jerome, I've read some comments by St. Jerome as we prepared for this episode. And he says in the fourth beatitude, our Lord is asking us to not simply have a vague desire for righteousness, but we should hunger and thirst for it. That is, that we should love and strive earnestly to seek what makes a man righteous in God's eyes. A person who genuinely wants to attain Christian holiness should love the means which the Church, the universal vehicle of salvation, offers all men and teaches them to use, which is frequent use of the sacraments, an intimate relationship with God and prayer, a valiant effort to meet one's social, professional, and family responsibilities. So St. Jerome kind of takes the edge off of your great introduction by bringing it to, the universal vehicle of salvation, the Church, and what the Church gives us to bring us to an understanding of, not just righteousness, which is holiness, but to, what hunger and thirst can mean in practical purposes for us. So it kind of softens that up for us a little bit,
Yeah. And I think of in the early part of our catechism, the catechism.
Amen.
It is...
Great point. The catechism.
Yeah, it's like saying your God, my God.
Well, you call it yourself. That's good.
It's only God.
Go ahead.
So every human heart has this drive, the longing, this spark, this longing for something beyond ourselves. You look at every culture. I've read a lot about different cultures over the years, studied some of it, and so far I haven't come across one, any documentation of one where they didn't have some ritual, some ceremony and practice toward some deity. So often it's up in the sky, if whether they think of nature, they see the overwhelming images in the natural world around them, and that's one of the things our faith teaches us, that God's revelation is in part through nature, His creation. So my point is, just like our catechism tells us, this beatitude tells us that we have these drives, but ultimately, what is our drive for? It's for God.
Yeah.
That's what that point in the catechism is, that all human beings have this drive, whether they identify it as that or not. They have this drive for something more, something beyond what they have, and they think that there's something greater beyond. They may be an atheist in the sense that, or I'll say atheistic in the sense that they don't believe there's a personal God or a quote-unquote God, whether they believe in their scientific mind that it's the forces of nature or there's this one overarching force. The point is that we know, we have this sense that there's this, you got to have this sense, unless there's something wrong with you mentally, that there's something beyond us. And we can't. We just know. You go outside. You don't have to be in the great mountains of the world or the raging seas or anything like that. You go outside and just say, well, I see that cloud up in the sky. I see these trees. And so this hunger and thirst for righteousness, like all the Beatitudes, like that, the great ethical system that the greatest ethical system that the Beatitudes represents is, and all our faith, everything points to God. So, that's where our destination is, right? That's what again, going to our catechism, that's what we want to know, love, and serve you in this life so we can be happy with you in the next life. So I think that when the righteousness, you tie it in with the Old Testament, Ecclesiastes. Here's Ecclesiastes 3:11. God has made everything beautiful in its time. Here it comes, though. Also, he has put eternity into man's mind. Yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. So that one clause in that sentence, also he has put eternity into man's mind. That's pretty much the same thing the Catechism is saying. And what this Beatitude is saying, it's everything is pointing to God, and of course God is eternal. So I love the way things tie in. There's so many different aspects that they tie in, and certainly with the Old and New Testament, it does it. It's the great, and this hunger. Well, another great prayer can come to mind from our faith tradition, from St. Augustine. It's you stir us. This is him talking to God in his book, his great book, The Confessions. You stir us so that, praising you may bring us joy. And you made us and draw us to yourself. And our hearts are restless until they rest in you. So the restlessness, the longing, the hunger, the thirsting, that's what we're called. That's what, as we're taught about our faith and we live. Yeah. We go through all the ups and downs, the goods and bads, the righteous and the evils of life. The challenge for us is, can you see the end zone, Dan? If you're on the 3-yard line of your own 3-yard line, you can see the end zone. You can't see the goal line, just the way the earth curves and whatnot. But you can see the end zone. You see the goalpost.
Sure, you can. Yeah.
And that's your end time. That's your end time, so to speak. And that's where you got to be.
Yeah, I love how you're supporting that whole concept of the atheist and the inner truths of ourselves, because we're all creatures of God. So when you went to Ecclesiastes, and that is in us. It's put on our mind already. It's put in our soul. The truth of who we are. Of course, some go on with their life in complete denial. Some go on in denial through bitterness. Some go on in complete ignorance and anger. Whatever the reason is, some go on. Way too many. One is too many, but way too many go on, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So let's reel it back into the more evolved faith of the believer, and let's go to the question. And I'm going to refer to Pope Francis' apostolic exhortation, Gaudete Exsultate. Okay, did I say that right?
Yeah, beautiful.
You're the expert. It was nice, right?
I'm not the expert, and you said it beautifully.
Oh. Thanks. So he writes, hunger and thirst are intense experiences. And that's how you open this up, Tom. Hunger and thirst are intense experiences since they involve basic needs and our instinct for survival. There are those who desire justice and yearn for righteousness with similar intensity. Jesus says that they will be satisfied, for sooner or later, justice will come. We can cooperate to make that possible, even if we may not always see the fruit of our efforts. And then he goes on. Jesus offers a justice other than that of the world, so often marred by petty interest and manipulated in various ways. Take the rest of what I'm saying here and apply it to today. Experience shows how easy it is to become mired in corruption, ensnared in the daily politics of quid pro quo, where everything becomes business. How many people suffer injustice standing by powerlessly while others divvy up the good things of this life? Some give up fighting for real justice and opt to follow in the train of the winners. This has nothing to do with the hunger and thirst for justice that Jesus praises. True justice comes about in people's lives when they themselves are just in their decisions. I'm going to read that again. True justice comes about in people's lives when they themselves are just in their decisions. It is expressed in their pursuit of justice for the poor and the weak. While it is true that the word justice can be a synonym for faithfulness to God's will in every aspect of our life, if we give the word too general a meaning, we forget that it is shown especially in justice towards those who are most vulnerable. And he quotes Isaiah, "Seek justice, correct oppression, defend the fatherless, and plead for the widow." And Pope Francis has finished up with this, and I think this is important. It goes right back to what you were talking about before I started talking about this. He simply says, hungering and thirsting for righteousness. That is holiness. So that brings us to the more advanced or evolved faith-based attitude toward the definition of justice/righteousness.
And that's classic Pope Francis. With you use the word
that's where it comes from, right?
Yeah, you use the word mire, and that's what we talk about that, the muck and mire of life, and that's of course what he's big into that, as he should, as we all should, and that's the reason why we look to Matthew 3:15, because what Jesus is doing is demonstrating, he exemplifies the righteousness by submitting to John the Baptist and the baptism. So what it's the active verb to do. It's not just to be for Jesus, the Son of God, but it's to do, and that's where there's our rubber meets the road. And that's what Pope Francis is talking about. How do we demonstrate our righteousness? Well, because we're talking about doing God's will. It's always about doing God's will and living in a right relationship with Him. We're called to form a relationship with God, and the best way for us to do that is to follow Christ and to do what He demonstrated. That's why He tells His apostles. He doesn't call them apostles, but He's talking to them. You'll be able to do these things and more. Can you imagine that? Being told you're going to be able to do more. And I mean, one thing we could say that Peter, we got the church from that, which didn't exist. So that's one thing that, again, with Jesus, we'll use this word condescending with Him. It's not, and I often don't like that word. I hear it a lot in certain circles, where God condescended to us to do this or do that. In fact, I was asked to review a friend of mine's. I think we may have talked about this. A legacy gift for his family, his extended family, whatnot. He's elderly, bright guy, and he in his I believe document. I said, I saw that he frequently used the word condescended, and finally I had to tell him, this is my opinion, and this is your document for your family, but I strongly urge you to toss that word condescended. You don't condescend for the people you love. You do for them because you love them, and that's what God did in Jesus and in the Holy Spirit, of course.
Yeah. That's a beautiful point. Exactly, and that's a great meditation and statement on humility. and justice, really, keeping us all together on the same plane of true justice and righteousness and inequality. And I think you said something before that triggered something from Deuteronomy. You said our righteousness. And Deuteronomy has something to say about that term, our righteousness. So let me read it to you. It says, do not say in your heart, after the Lord your God has thrust them out before you, quote, it is because of my righteousness that the Lord has brought me in to possess this land. Whereas it is because of the wickedness of these nations that the Lord is driving them out before you. Not because of your righteousness or the uprightness of your heart are you going to possess their land, but because of the wickedness of these nations, the Lord your God is driving them out before you, and that he may confirm the word that the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. So we need to be careful that it's our righteousness that's being, flexed in a situation, whereas that righteousness, that virtue, that understanding, the wisdom to know it and to stand before it are truly gifts from God, and it's God acting through us. It is God himself that is, flexing the righteousness in whatever form that's being done, or the justice. Synonymous.
Well, as always, the challenge is, we probably got another 2 minutes or so. The challenge is the last clause of that, the promise. The promise in the beatitude, in this beatitude, is, again, will be.
Will be filled.
Not are.
The promise. Yeah.
Not are. It's will be. And that is always, that's the ancient and I guess ever present eternal, well, not eternal, but in time, in our life, the challenge, it's that our ultimate satisfaction won't happen in this life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Got to be God.
Yeah.
So how do you stay the course? I mean, things, that's not to say you won't have any satisfaction, but to be satisfied, it means, in the way I've understood it, in totality. Mm-hmm. So how do we, what do we do?
Of course.
What do we do since we're not satisfied?
We need to stay in prayer-based regimen. And going back to St. Jerome, is attend to the sacraments that the Catholic Church gives us. In Revelation 22:11, you couldn't have said it. I'm looking at Revelation 22:11, and you're saying, how do we stay the course? And it says simply, let the one who does wrong continue to do wrong. Let the vile person continue to be vile. Let the one who does right continue to do right, and let the holy person continue to be holy. So stay the course. Get on your knees. Stay regimented. Stay focused.
That's right.
Stay strong.
We got to do, right? We got to do.
Turn your eyes away from anything that is not you or your desires, your burning desire. Stay strong. Stay focused.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a greater time in history that we can't, practice that ourselves and inspire others to do the same.
Well, I don't think there's a better time in our history, like you and me.
Yeah, our history.
Yeah, I don't think there's never been a time like this. Some people might go to the late 60s, and I used to think that, but I would disagree with that and believe I could defend that position of disagreement. But so it's
in our lifetime. This is really
in our lifetime. So I think that how we talk about to be. I know we're wrapping this up. We got to be and to do. We are that to be. Who are you? And that we know that from birth, from conception, we are children of God. All right. Yes. That's so. In terms of our identity, we're children of God. But now, what do we do with that? And that's what the Sermon on the Mount, not just the Beatitudes. That's the Sermon on the Mount. It's what do you do, Jesus? You shall know them by their fruits. What are they doing?
Amen.
Okay, Danny, we are wrapping it up.
Great point, Tommy. Yeah, stay tuned, everyone, for the Angelus, and listen to our good friend Peter and Jemmy and his show, Your Prayer Intentions.
And a shout out to our mutual friend Pete, who gives us encouragement periodically.
Mrs. Tooker reaches out to us quite often.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she's listening today.
All right, buddy.
And Brother Matthew, we might, if you're listening today, Brother Matthew's going to reach out to you real soon. We're going to get you on the show.
That's right.
Yep.
Looking forward.
Yeah,
so, all right.
Great guest, yeah.
WQPHradio.org. Donate if you can. Keep this good programming going. I said that in all humility. The good programming, not just ours. So, God bless all. God bless you, Danny.
God bless you, Tommy. God bless everyone.
Thank you for listening to the 13th Apostle with Dan Duddy and Tom Caffrey. For more information on Dan, visit his website at www.danduddy.com or email dcduddy@gmail.com. Tom's website is faithpilgrims.com or email trcaffrey@faithpilgrims.com. How about you? Will you be the 13th Apostle?